All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, and welcome to episode number 24 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. When my guest Tim Becherer, that's what he calls himself, gets on, we'll make sure that that's actually the right way to pronounce his name, because I'm going to take issue with him. So as you come on board, CJ Strawn is here, David Chang. Hey, David Chang. Leo Sanchez. Leo, I'm going to see you in a few hours this weekend, right? And Mr. Munoz Sampaio is here also. Thanks for logging in, guys. Mr. Brown, I might actually, that topic that you and I broached just a few minutes ago, I might actually bring that up somewhat when Mr. Becherer gets on the line with me. All right. Bo Jackson, hello, how are you? So we'll give Tim a few minutes to get on here. I hope that he remembered that it's 2 p.m. Eastern time and not 3 p.m. the usual time, because, hi John, how are you? Juan Perez, what's happening? Yeah, I hope Tim remembers it's an hour earlier, because I got to get to the airport to pick up Ajahn Chai. He's doing, the Thai Boxing Association is celebrating 50 years of Ajahn Chai's teaching in the United States, and here in Miami we're celebrating 25 years of bringing him to South Florida to do an annual seminar. So here's hoping Tim remembered we were going to be an hour earlier. If he didn't, that's my fault. I should have confirmed. Okay, so it says he's here. Now, let's see if he accepts the invitation and can come online and all that good stuff. Okay. All right. Tim says he just remembered that it was an hour earlier. So I sent the invitation out to him. Let's see what happens. Dave Schrank, welcome. What else can I tell you guys to fill in on? I don't want to embarrass myself. If I want to embarrass myself, I'll tell you what went wrong with part 2 of the Rick Fay, the Rick Fay dialogue. But I don't want to embarrass myself, so I'm not going to tell you. Just know that I'm trying to get him back. Scott Anderson, hello. Okay, so Tim Becherer is here. Looks like the technology will work without being crappy on this Friday. Hi, Robert. Aha. I was starting to worry.
I was, it's funny. I was thinking, because the first message you sent me, it said the earlier time. And then I think I asked you and it said the later time. I thought, I just finished with breakfast. I thought, you know what, I better check. And I'm glad I did.
Wait, you just finished breakfast?
Yeah. Late breakfast.
It's 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock over there, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Man, that Hollywood lifestyle. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. What's up? Come on.
Well, I up relatively early. My wife was off to work, and I make breakfast for her and all that stuff. I just did some errands and what have you. But I do work nights, so
what a nice. So yeah. So listen. So I did the research on you, and it talked about are you Floridian?
No, I just went to college down there. I lived down there for about 7 years. I actually, my first wife, when I was married the first time, she had spent a lot of time down there. And I originally born here in California, but I grew up in Illinois because my parents were from there. They moved back there by the time I was school age. And then I got involved with a girl in my early 20s. Her father lived in the Tampa area.
Yeah.
And so we had moved down there, got married, lived there for about 5 years, went back to school in my mid-20s, and ended up finishing at the University of Miami. So I lived in Miami for about 2 years.
So that explains it. Because I
Yes,
saw
sir.
a picture of you and Joel Clark,
Yes.
other people, and you're representing, right, with the Miami sweatshirt.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I did a seminar with you there once. That's one place I've met you. Yes, sir. Do you remember a guy named Kat that taught Shotokan and Aikido at the university?
Yeah, Cat Fitzgerald. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He did a seminar there with you, and I took that seminar because I taught a kickboxing class at the university while I was there.
You see, this is why you have to be careful what you do, because then somebody comes along and says, "Oh yeah, you were at that party and you did such and such."
Right.
What?
Well, it was all good experience, sir. I had a great time. It was fun to do Kali and.
Wow. Okay, so at that time, had you trained any of the JKD or associated disciplines?
Oh yeah, yeah. I started about 1993 or so in the Temp area. There was a guy named Lauren Bookbinder,
Right.
And I studied with him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And okay. So yeah. So this is what my research gave me. So you started with Lauren, and then you went back to LA in '99.
Yes, sir.
But you didn't start training immediately.
No, I ended up injuring my back a little bit, and so I let that recuperate, and then started looking for someone that was certified by Guru Dan, and because I thought he was farther south than where I lived for some reason for the longest time. I always saw Torrance and Carson as an address, and then when I went to their website, I realized it was 3 miles from my doorstep, and went, well, there you go. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah. Was that Beach Avenue or Manchester?
It's Beach. They had just moved from the Manchester school up to Beach at that time.
Okay, yeah, because I have a hard time with the timeline for the Inosanto Academy. Yeah. So the other day when Burton Richardson put the Kali Academy, that photograph of the Kali Academy on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You said that you and Sifu Dan had driven by there, or
down there, yeah.
So you were not looking for the place, were you?
Not necessarily. We were down in the San Pedro area doing a little hyperbaric oxygen treatment stuff.
Okay.
And we were early to. I think it was actually a day that he was going to go to lunch with Ajahn Chai, and so we were going to go to lunch with Ajahn Chai, who lives down toward that area. And so we were pretty early, and we're just kind of tooling around. And he said, "Hey, Timmy, I'm going to show you some of the areas that I used to live, my old house, and what have you." So we got going around there, and it was really pretty cool. But he was remarking how much the neighborhood had changed, which everything in California, kind of like Miami, it's always constructing, and things look different within 6 months. If you're not there, you're totally lost. And same thing, he's like, well, the old Kali Academy used to be here in this street, and he couldn't quite find it, and I wasn't familiar enough with the address or the way the building looked, and so we thought, oh man, maybe it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's not. I think Bert found on the satellite that's still there.
So Carlos mentioned that it's a small world because we actually met decades ago in Miami, and Michael Dubin just came online, right?
Oh,
now I got something. Do you know if let's see, let me make sure I wrote it down so I wouldn't mess it up. Do you know if Ulysses Owen Jr. is related to your Shorin-ryu instructor? Because
good question.
Ulysses Owens Jr. is a big time drummer.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So when I saw the name, I thought of you. I thought of Michael Dubin. He just came online. So I'm wondering, do you have any idea if they're related?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to ask him, because when I left the area that I grew up, he had a son who was UC Junior, but he was a little baby at the time. So I'd almost have to look at the age. That would have been 1986 or 87, and he would have been maybe 2 years old at that time. So if that works out for the age of that drummer, that could very well
be the guy.
Wow.
That could be I mean, this guy looks like he'd be in his 30s or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him. I'll send him a text.
Yeah. check it out and see. And what you said about Ulysses Owens is that he taught you, and you use two nouns, the patience and humility.
Yes, sir.
That a martial artist should have. So here's my question for you. Two questions. How old were you when he taught you that, when that lesson was imprinted on you? And then the second part of that is that part of your devotion to Dan Inosanto because of that same patience and humility factor?
Oh yeah, okay. I was age 12, so it was the summer
Okay.
after my 7th grade year. So between 7th
Okay.
and 8th grade is when I started martial art. And yes, absolutely. I think Sensei Yusi, his personality was this very kind, very reserved, very physically skilled kind of man. And I remember that in our karate warm-ups, it was always, what are two things that make a good karate man? Patience and humility. Which I can transfer to any martial art, really. And yeah, I mean, his personality and Guru Dan's remind me very much the same. And I find that I'm attracted to that level or that type of instructor, that personality of instructor,
Yeah.
to stay around. I mean, I'll take a seminar with anybody that has knowledge and I enjoy it. But long-term instructors, I tend to stick with those types of personalities.
And the reason why I thought of that is because I don't know if you saw my dialogue episode with Rick Fay.
Oh, I was trying to watch it the other night and my internet was slow. I've got it on my reserve. I'm going to watch it.
All right. When you do, get back to me and let me know because I mean, I've known Rick for decades, right? I've known Rick from day one. But I think when he talks about Dan Inosanto, you can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. His utter devotion to the man.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so those of us who are not from California, we live in envy of people like you, right? who get to hang with him. But I want to ask you about the California experiment, and I'm gonna use you, right?
Okay.
Actually, wait, let me slow down because I got a ton of stuff, right? I got a ton of stuff. I'm going to use you to get an insider's look at the Inosanto Academy.
Okay.
All right. So first things first. Are there still a lot of Hollywood types that hang out that come train there?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have. I would say there's a lot of stunt people. I mean, you might not know exactly who they are because they're obviously not the featured person, but we've got a lot of people that are playing pretty major stunt roles at the time, fight doubling for people. You know, we see Jeff Amada's there quite often, Tsuyoshi, Damon Carl, we see all those guys a lot. And there's actors that come in that'll just say hey to Guru because they've trained with him, you know, for films. In fact, here's a very funny story for me because I worked in entertainment television or E-entertainment for a long time as an editor. And so I've edited, you know, a bunch of red carpet shots and E-entertainment news and what have you. And one day, Muay Thai class, there was a young kid that just come up from Little Dragons and was working in the adult class, and I was helping him out. And in walks this couple, and they're standing by the door. And I look over and I said, wow, that woman looks like Denzel Washington's wife. And I didn't think anything of it. And I look back and I'm helping the kid, and I look up again. And I said, well, that's because Denzel Washington's standing there with her. That's would make sense. And I'm thinking she looks exactly like she looks on the red carpet shots. And I told myself at that point, get into scripted, man, because you know how much, you know, how people's wives look now on red carpets. You know, it's like, you've done this for too long. Time to go to a new phase. But there'll be those instances where people will come by and they'll say hi, or, you know, they do some of the training down there too.
You know, during the Book of Eli time, Sifu Dan actually called me one day and he goes, Dwight, you'll never guess who I'm training for his new movie. I go, no, Sifu, I'll never guess. He goes, he's got the same initials as you.
That's
right?
Really cool.
Yeah. So, okay. So are you still in the entertainment world?
Yeah, I work in post-production on some Nickelodeon shows right now.
Okay.
Henry Danger, primarily the one they're filming the last season of that right now.
Okay. And you mentioned Jeff, and I thought this was incredible because you started 2005,
Yes, sir.
And there's a picture of you next to Jeff, who started 30 years before.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So how, this is a stupid question. What happens when you realize that that's what's going on?
Well, you've seen the old footage of the Beatles when they came to America and the teenage girls screaming. That's what's going on inside.
Okay.
You're like, it is pretty funny, and it was one of those great moments too, where I think I was standing in the office when I first met him, helping Dory with something, and in he comes, and he just kind of extends his hand. He goes, "Hi, my name is Jeff," and I'm like, "Yeah, you are. That's who you are. You got that right." So cool, very very humble, very nice man. It's hard not to like him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like exactly the same way. But the Hollywood thing, is there enough being done in Hollywood for everybody who moves out there to be working, or are there a lot of people who are struggling?
I'm sure there's always going to be more than what's available. It's an interesting transition right now because of all the streaming, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube Red, and there's I believe there's a new studio being built up in the Sun Valley area, which is so north of North Hollywood type of area.
Okay.
And I believe they haven't hardly broke ground on it, and they've got all these studios booked already out for stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's just a struggle of what you're going to get paid, because there's unions, but the unions are allowing a thing called new media now, which just means internet stuff, which is kind of an excuse to go, well, we're going to pay you less, or we're not going to pay into pension. So there's always that struggle. I mean, you're always going to find younger people that are, and I was too 20 years ago, like, oh yeah, sure, I'll work for whatever and I'll work all day. But, you get married, you get in your 40s, and you're kind of like, I kind of need something for the future now. So there's always going to be that struggle. So yeah, there's stuff going on, but it's also going on in other places. Like one of our Academy guys, did you know Keith Davis?
Yes.
From the Academy? Yeah, he moved to Atlanta a few years ago, and he's doing very well.
So look at the coincidence of this. As you were saying that, having that thought, Sue Welch from Atlanta came on. Right?
Awesome.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So what's the deal with, what am I watching now? Altered Carbon. That films in Canada. So what's the deal with, and Orphan Black was filmed in Canada, Suits was filmed in Canada. What's the story behind that?
I think with Canada, there's a lot of tax incentive for companies to go up there and shoot. I think they handle a lot of incentives. I think there's also probably a little different rules regarding union and stuff. But the interesting thing is, I think for every American, you have to have one or two Canadians. So it's hard as an American to go up there because you have to have a Canadian shadow. Again, I'm kind of talking what I kind of remember, so don't hold me to all these facts, but it's something similar to that. And Canada's been kind of an attractive place for a long time, because you remember what was the Jackie Chan film, kind of when he made his big American third comeback, Rumble in the Bronx or something like that? No, not Rumble in the Bronx.
No.
That was the other.
Wait.
That was the 80s. The one in the 90s.
Was that Rush Hour?
No, before that. And it was like supposed to be in New York, and it was actually all filmed in Vancouver. And that was kind of the start of the big Canadian rush. And then television's been very popular from there.
Yeah.
Actors from there.
Yeah.
As well. In fact, we had a girl that was trained in the Academy. Katie Lutz was her name. She was in the DC Legends of DC. She plays.
Wasn't she in Arrow or something also?
Yeah, she was in Arrow.
Yeah.
And then she moved on to this Legends of DC, and she trained at the Academy, and then she had to leave because it started filming, I think, in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And she was great. She did a little write-up in the paper up there, I think, about training at the Academy and stuff. And so she learned some of her 6 counts and that. And she said, it's great. She doesn't have to get subbed out for the fight double all the time now. So.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember when Arrow first came along, I had a female student who kept telling me, "Oh, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. There's so much Kali in it." And at that time, I didn't have time to watch TV back then, right? So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, you said that with Lauren Bookbinder, you were introduced to the idea of the concept of training progressions.
Yes, sir.
So I want you to tell me what you mean by training progressions, and then I want to get into your Larry Hartsell days.
Okay. The training progression was kind of the idea of going from the most gross or simple movement to refining it. So, for instance, we would really break down. He was very good at breaking down something like the mechanics of the cross, for instance. And I still really teach it the way he taught me these days. So it's like really paying attention to the detail. Maybe in the beginning, if the person's never thrown a cross before, you kind of go with this gross motion. And then as they get that, you start refining down and down and down some more. And that's almost like the idea of refining, as in Jeet Kune Do, is kind of refining your movements. And if you're having trouble with something, say you're biting off too much, you take a step back and go, okay, how can we break this down to where are you having the trouble? Are you having the trouble with the foot or the hip rotation? And so you isolate that and you work that part. And you start to understand what part relates to the next part that relates to the next part. And you build in that manner, which I found really incredible. And honestly, I use that method to teach English to kids in Kazakhstan back in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And it worked so well that the college that I was teaching at had me teaching their teachers. And I'm like, I don't have a degree in education. They're like, yeah, just don't tell anybody that. Teach them. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, because I'm never not surprised to hear that somebody has taken what we study and applied it, its principles and its concepts, let's call it, into other fields of education, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That oh man. So you talked about different disciplines. So when I looked at the pictures of you that I could find online, right? There's the Khmer boxing pictures, there's the Sistema pictures, there's the Balintawak pictures, there's the gosh, I can't even remember all of them, right? So what how should I frame this? What I really want to ask you is, what are you doing, right? but that
training,
but
my
that's
friend,
not
training.
a good enough question, right? But it just seems as if you're just like soaking up as much stuff as you can get, right? So what is the driving force behind that?
I'm just a big nerd. I think that's probably why I get along with Guru Dan. I'm just kind of a big nerd. I like learning everything, anything, and personalities. I like the personalities too, the people we go and train with, and looking for the connections. A lot of it is looking how to understand the things that I already have a little better.
Yeah.
Sistema is a good one because it's so strange and so weird, and I don't even know how to describe it to you. We've probably done Guru's been with Martin Wheeler for a few years, and I've probably done maybe a dozen or so lessons. Guru goes over there, and it's so strange. It's like this Gumby stuff, and there's nothing that I would call a Sistema punch as far as the form or a Sistema kick, but there's a lot of work on relaxation of the body and stress inoculation. And I'm like, well, these things are very important no matter what the art is. So I can draw that. I might not ever be able to move and look like what Martin Wheeler does, but I can certainly apply how he's getting his body to do that to my Kali or to my JKD.
Right.
Sure.
Is Martin Wheeler in Hollywood also? Is he doing?
Yeah, he's partnered with Professor Hegan at a place on Wilshire Boulevard, right in Beverly Hills, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. And movie stuff, is he involved in any of that?
Oh yeah, they got that's the other place I see some famous movie people come into is there.
Really?
Yeah, they train people. He's been doing choreography, I think, as well. Hegan's been training a lot of Hollywood types as well.
Okay. Ah, that's funny. Um, so when did you first start with Sifu Hartsell? When did that come
It was
about?
the same time when I came to the academy. I didn't even know he was teaching there, and at the
Okay.
time, the academy lets you watch a class, which I did. I came in. I was working nights back then too, so I came in. There's a Thursday morning class. Noticed that Guru Dan was teaching it. I'm like, oh, that's great. He teaches
Yeah.
class that people can go to that aren't advanced and what have you. That's awesome. So I said, okay, let me come back next week and try this class. And then he was gone that week, and the class was taught by Victor Grangiano, who we lost here recently. Did you know Vic?
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah. So he was the teacher of that class, and he knew right away. He's like, oh, you've got some experience. And oh, looks like you froze. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, but
Okay.
so then everybody will just watch you from now on.
That's putting a lot of pressure on me. Vic, Vic noticed that I had some experience right away, and he asked me about it. So we started to become pretty close from that. And then I said, okay, yeah, this is definitely the place I want to train and study. So I'll sign up. And Dory said, okay, well, they had classes on Friday, and I remember I had something going on that Friday that I couldn't go. So I was coming back the next Tuesday for a morning class, and she said, okay, there'll be a woman named Deborah there that will help you. I said, okay, great. So I came in, signed up with Deborah. I went out to the mat to start stretching out, and Deborah said, okay, the class is going to start in about 10 minutes. I said, okay. A few more people came in, and then out walks the instructor, and it's Larry Hartsell. And I thought, oh my God, he teaches here too. This is great,
Yeah.
extra bonus. And so I always went to his class, and within pretty short time, I'd say a few months, he asked myself and another guy that was in the class with me, Christopher Harley. He asked us, would you like to join my semi-private group? And of course the answer is yes. You don't say no to something like that. And so I got to train with him in the semi-private group, which most of the time was myself and Chris and maybe a few other people.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years that he was with us, and eventually he started having Chris and I help him train his privates that would come in there on the weekends, and help him with seminar demos and stuff. So we got to spend probably a good at least 10 hours a week or more with him.
Yeah. And you started touring with him also, didn't you?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You started touring with him also?
No, I didn't really tour. I helped him with some of the local stuff, and then there was one time that I was taking a trip to Europe in 2006, and it worked out that I was going to be in Berlin at the same time, and so I thought, well, of course, I'm going to go to Berlin and help him with the seminar, or be in the seminar at least, and so I did that.
Okay. So what? Oh, I wanted to ask you this. What is IKF Point Muay Thai?
IKF, is that something that's on the shirt?
Yeah, it came up when I was doing the research. It's some kind of a tournament. Do you know?
Oh, that? No, if it's a tournament, I don't know. I know there was like the organization, I think, that Master Omri has, which is the Kun Khmer organization. I forget what the lettering is. I think it's on the shirt, one of the shirts.
Okay. Yeah, no, this was just something I saw that somehow was associated with your name. So I wondered if it was, something that you promoted or what have you. Now,
No.
the Kun Khmer, is that, there's a logo on your site, Long Beach Kickboxing.
Yes, sir.
Is that the Khmer boxing place?
Yes, that's the gym down in Long Beach, and I believe he's the oldest gym in Southern California. There's the North Hollywood Muay Thai gym, and I think they were about 3 months or 4 months after Master Omri opened.
The North Hollywood Muay Thai, is that the one that was on Van Owen or something?
I think so. I think it was that Crew Puck that opened that one?
Yeah. In the 1980s, when I would come out to LA and spend time with Sifu Dan and Simo Paula, he was training there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in addition to, you know, so let me describe that, and you tell me if it's similar or different. So they would pick me up at the hotel, and we would go over to the IMB, and he would teach class there, and then we would leave, and we would go to Harbor College, and he would teach a class there, and then we would go to lunch. And then they would drop me off at the academy. They would go run errands, and then I'd see him again like at 5 p.m. Is that radically different from today?
Not really. He still keeps that kind of schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe what he's doing is a little different, but it's basically, yeah, from early morning, here's things he's doing, to then there's a lunch break, and then a couple things in the afternoon, maybe a small break, and then he'll teach.
Yeah. What's it like going to lunch with him?
Oh, it's a basically it's a mental list of things you're going to Google for a while after, because he gives you lots of ideas, asks lots of questions, brings up things that you're like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. And then he'll even quiz me on things, because, you know, I'd spent time in Central Asia, so he's, you know, asking me questions about that. And fortunately now my wife's from the Philippines, so she gets the quizzing now too, so it's good. You know, I get some of the quizzing off me, but she gets her homework as well.
Okay. Here's the
really
silliest question. Here's the silliest question anybody will ever ask you. Does it ever get tired hanging out with Dan Inosanto?
No, not at all. Not at all. Definitely not. No, there's always something, you know, there's always something. It's really, really amazing the range of things that he really gets interested in and researches and talks about. I mean, it's history. He's definitely a big history buff, and it's not even just Filipino history or Asian history. I mean, he's looking at Greek history, and he's looking at European history and South American history, and you know, he's always researching things for health too. So, you know, he's asking me about, you know, what I know about things like the cryogenic therapy. So that makes me to go online and start looking and researching that, and like the oxygen therapy and all these things too. So it's been, you know, he's very, he stimulates you to learn and grow.
Yeah. Is there anything, since you are, let's call it later generation, but you have access to all the older generation?
Yeah.
Right? So do you think there's something that you see that others might not be aware of because of your unique position in between those two generations?
Like, I mean, yeah, did you have something in mind, or?
Well, see, I mean, when I think of the fact that, you know, Sifu Dan's got people from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, from the first decade of the 2000s, now going into the second decade of the 2000s, right? And you know, I see him twice a year. You see him every week. But you came along in the 2000s. But you're hanging out with people who came along in the 1970s. So I'm just wondering if there's ever been, you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. There's certainly, it's funny. There's, let's say, when I've subbed for his class or something before, and I'll do a drill that people who are pretty advanced students now have not seen, and it's something that I learned from, say, Lauren, who learned from Guru Dan in 1979. And and so and I see somebody like Tsuyoshi do the drill, or maybe Nino Pila will do a drill. I'm like, oh God, I know that one. And people are like, really? Where'd you learn that? I'm like, well, from these older, you know, generation guys. Because you know, the thing that I think I've noticed is Guru Dan has, like, I would call, like, maybe 3 cycles of material. One cycle is really long, like 7 years. So you'll see something and maybe you'll see it 7 years from now. and then he's got, you know, smaller loops that are like a year long or a couple year long, and then, you know, months long. And then he just, you know, has things that he's always researching and learning too. So something that he's found that's new that he likes, he'll share with us too.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets pretty interesting. But yeah, there's definitely some things, and that's kind of been stroke of luck that I've had with learning from and being around some of the older generation people, is getting to see some of the older material too.
Right. And so how many classes does he teach now?
Let's see. He'll teach all night Tuesday, which is kids class, Muay Thai class, Silat, Kali, and JKD. So that's 5 on Tuesday. He teaches the kids on Wednesday, 6, and then another 5 on Thursday, because he'll teach a Thursday morning and the Thursday evening classes, which there's 4.
So he still has that Thursday morning class, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the old days, that was the Hollywood personality class.
Oh, really?
Seriously. I mean, you'd stop and you'd look around, you'd go, oh, that's the guy from that movie. Oh, look, that's that girl from whatever and whatever. So, yeah. Oh man, that's hilarious.
I guess that would explain why I sparred Mario Van Peebles in that very early on when I was at the Academy.
Yeah, and the instructor conferences, when that crowd of people descends on you guys in LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's that like? What's a major impression that you get from that, and what's a major takeaway that you get from all those different people?
Oh, well, the bonding is amazing. It's amazing to meet so many people from so many places with such varied backgrounds that really have a strong bond to each other, just over the art and over Guru Dan, really.
Yeah.
You know, the arts are amazing, but I think his personality really helps with that bond. And so that's the major take I take from it. It's a thing I love to be part of because of that, because of seeing all these faces now that I've gone several times to them. It's been great to see a lot of the same faces over and over again, and meet new people as you see new instructors, you know, get made, and they come. And it certainly increases the we have parking issues already, so it increases the parking issues in the classes. Guru's classes will get more crowded, of course, but that's, you know, it's a good thing, and it's really cool to then be able to see, especially for the instructors who are from out of town, who will take the material and then make it their own and do it their way. And so there's really an interesting exchange, because you'll have people that will point out something or show something. You're like, wow, I never really thought of looking at it that way, or I didn't see that before. And so it's a great learning experience for sure.
Yeah. So you Ron Rosales and I had a little dialogue off camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So before I forget, I wanted to ask you, who else do you have in mind that I should ask to be on the dialogue show?
Oh wow, I think somebody like Dana Grillikis would be interesting, because she's a female that's been training with Gru for probably 30 years. So she goes back like to the days of Alphonse and Chris Kent and those guys. So I think she might be an interesting person for you to interview, because she'd give a very interesting perspective too.
Okay.
I think Ray's such a great personality that, you know, it'd be fantastic for you to interview. Atticus Todd might be a very interesting person for you. He came from Rick Fay's school, and he is a character actor in Hollywood, not to mention just a big, gregarious guy who's an instructor at the Academy as well.
Okay.
Certainly would be a very interesting person for you to interview.
Yeah.
I got, you know, the usual suspects. You should try to see if you get Jeff and Damon and Tsuyoshi, those guys.
Yeah. Okay. So in the old days, one of my nicknames for the Inosanto Academy, the full name for me was the Inosanto Academy of Martial Arts and International Youth Hostel. Now, I'm pretty sure people don't get to sleep there anymore, right? But is there still a lot of international traffic just coming by?
Oh
To,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, there is. In fact, it was funny. There's a house maybe half mile down the road, down Washington Boulevard from there, that was owned by this German friend of mine. He owned a heavy metal label, and it was this house, and it had all these bungalows that he used for offices. And I'm like, man, I wish I had the money to buy that, because I probably could have Airbnb'd those things out left and right to all the international students coming into the
Yeah.
academy.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that.
definitely see a lot of English students. We see a lot. We had quite a few from Italy this year
Mhm.
already. Germany, quite popular. Spain. There's a few that come in from France, and then we get some every once in a while from like South America, and even some places that we've never seen them before.
Yeah.
It's pretty
So what's your plan? I mean, because obviously you're having a great time just doing what you do on a daily basis,
yeah.
just being who you are. But I mean, is there a plan that you could tell us about or something? Or I mean,
Yeah. Sure. I'm right now. There's one of my training partners at the academy, Christopher Bruce. He and I are creating a digital martial art magazine, and right now we have the Facebook page for it. We have social media like Instagram and such, and we're kind of sharing existing things. And if we take a little interview, we'll put it out there.
that's
But
my
really,
right.
yeah, martial art lifestyle magazine.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was really thinking of creating the magazines like the ones that we liked, back in the 80s before they got all kind of crazy with being gossipy and stuff, but that were really more informational, um, great studies on martial arts. And then the other thing I wanted to really emphasize in the magazine is how to keep training to be like somebody like Guru Dan, be 82 years old and still just going out there and training, to your heart's content.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it with a lot of these guys. Like Guru Dan's 82, Master Omri's 72,
Hmm.
Grandmaster Attilio I think is about 80 or 81 as well. Dr. G I think is a little bit older than Guru Dan, and these guys are still training and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love for that to be me when I get to be in my 80s and 90s.
Yeah. And some of your other projects, what is it? Petresca
Oh
Pictures?
yeah, that's just kind of that's my if I make any say media stuff, that would be my company or my label that I would put that out on. So say short film or
Okay.
feature film. I actually shot a horror film over in Kazakhstan, and I've been working on it. It's a little slow edit because Russian and my Kazakh, I'm not very fluent in those languages, and I shot them all in those languages.
Yeah.
So I'm having to have some old students from over there help translate everything for me, and I can subtitle it and work on it.
Okay. All right.
One of the
And
other big
now I got to
projects
pick
is
a.
I got all of. Okay.
Now I got to pick a fight with you because
Oh no.
I went to yes, I went to pronouncenames.com
Uh-huh.
and it said Becherer.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. That's how they pronounced it in Paris when I was there, and in Berlin. When I was in Berlin, they made the CH a little soft too, but that side of my family was from Munich, which is southern Germany, and some of
Okay.
the people I asked them down there, they say, yeah, it's a hard like CH, like a K.
Yeah.
So that's the way my family's always pronounced it. So I just, I'm not going to argue with Dad and Grandpa on that. Just say it.
Yeah. All right. That's it. So, tell me some more, because we talked about the concept of training progressions that you
Uh-huh.
got from Warren, but you also mentioned JKD Principles. So, what in the early days were the JKD principles that you got? What are the ones that you kept and that you still make use of to this day?
Oh, well, very much the idea of ranges and flowing between ranges was something, oddly enough, I'd seen I kind of understood through kickboxing with UC early, but never really had it formulated into an actual concept in my brain, like the idea of like from the ABC drills that we get in JKD, where you're punching and you're kicking because the person steps back into that range. They're moving away from your punch, and so they're moving into a kicking range. So you throw the kick because they stepped into that range, not because it's combination number 3 and you go jab, cross, kick,
Right.
mindlessly. And so those kind of concepts really stuck with me early on. Like, oh wow, there's a distinct purpose, and rather than trying to memorize a technique, which I always found really hard, like, okay, I've got to remember this technique for this situation. I'm like, well, how am I going to recall that if that situation happens? And what if the situation happens that I have no technique for? Do I just freeze? What do I do? And so when it was more this idea of a range of weapons, and it's like, okay, I'm going to strike with my hands because I'm in this boxing range. I'm going to use my feet because they step out to a longer range. Or we move closer, so I'm going to trap their hands, or I'm going to put them in a lock, or I'm going to put them on the ground. Or if they're really good at one of those things, I'm going to stay away from that range and use the other tools I have that hopefully they're not that good at. That made a lot of sense to me, and I still roll by that rule.
Okay. And your back and working with Larry Hartsell, you did okay.
Yeah. I did. My back injuries are not from training. They're more from, having a job in post-production where you sit all the time. And I've been really lucky with the people that I've worked with. It's just been disc herniation. So, I did physical therapy, no surgery. And, I was able to recover pretty good, enough to be able to do things. And I've seen the old footage of Larry, and it looks pretty brutal, but he was always, he's always pretty good with me and Chris. He never hurt us. I mean, there were times he puts you in a lock where your hands are tied up, your face is in the ground, and your legs are pinned, and you're like, I don't have any way to signal, that I'm tapping. And I'm like, well, I just hope he knows where to stop before killing me, and I'm still here. So.
Yeah, I always used to stay away from him. I'd train in the class, but I'd stay away from him. I never wanted him to grab me.
Oh, man, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's frightening the first couple times, and then you're just like, okay, well, I realize he's got pretty good control, and he's, he never hurt me. But his form was so good. It's just like, he'd go into that sitting back arm bar, and he'd only get so far, and I'd be tapping already, and he'd just look at me. I'm like, okay, take it farther, because it doesn't even look like he's doing it, where he's got me. But that's pretty good form.
Yeah.
To have you.
All right. So let's start wrapping this up.
Okay.
This is another one of my dumb questions because I already know the answer to it. Which is more important, martial arts or film work?
Oh, to me, martial art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so we've talked about patience and humility. Tell me what else goes into being, first, a good Jeet Kune Do student, and then second, a good Jeet Kune Do instructor.
Okay. Well, to be a good student, these have to be more important than this, for sure. Listening, watching, is certainly more important than trying to talk. I think observation, especially over time, one of I can maybe encapsulate this in a question that I'd asked her, Dan, once about the JKD term, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless. And I asked her, I said, how do we ever know something's useless? I mean, I know I don't understand something, but that doesn't make it useless. That just makes it, I don't understand it. And he just kind of looked at me and smiled. He said, that's pretty good, Timmy. That was my answer. I'm like, okay. All right. I said, well, I'm just going to say I absorb what I understand, and then what is I don't understand, I put on the shelf till I do understand it later. And that's happened with academic things in the past. So I am going to make the guess that it will happen with martial art things, because there's stuff we look at now, like getting a conversation with Dr. Mark Chang about Chinese forms. And he's like, yeah, this wasn't meant to be a fighting form. This was meant to give you flexibility and strength. You're like, oh, okay, well, that's not useless. That's actually very useful. So no need to throw it away. Just it's good to understand it. So I think in understanding, which comes through listening and observation over time, is of primary importance for a student. For an instructor, it's kind of the same thing. You have to understand, and I found this in teaching academics too, you have to understand there's different learning styles. And so you have to be observant of your students and see how they're learning. And, most schools kind of take the shotgun approach where you put out one style and hopefully most people get it. But I find we've got students that learn spatially a little bit different. Like there's ones that I can face them and show them Heaven 6 and they get it. Where if I face other students and show them Heaven 6, they're kind of putting their stick in the same spot I am in space. And so they're almost doing it backwards. I'm like, oh, okay. So I have to turn and face the same direction they do. And so you have to really be observant as to how people are learning. And I've probably seen some students that I thought I saw them having a tough time early on. I thought, oh man, I hope they're going to be fine. And they're still here, so many years later doing really well. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Tim, it's been a pleasure meeting you again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me on. It was very nice.
Yeah. No, we'll do it again because I still got more questions for.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Let me ask you this. At the Inosanto Academy, is there a Bruce Lee vibe?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the influence that's there. There's the photos. We have pictures up, and there's discussion. There's not like a crazy fanboy thing, which is actually quite liberating in a way, because that gets a little spooky.
Yeah.
But
that's
it's not like goofy.
Yeah. I'll ask you a final silly does it get old question. Does it get old walking into the Inosanto Academy and looking at everything that's up on the walls?
God, no. Oh man, so much there. It's like a museum. And what's funny is, there's an upstairs and there's stuff up there, and there's a wall for Larry, and I actually want to try to add a couple things to it. But you discover stuff on there all the time, and then there's things you don't know what it is. You're looking at it, and then Guru in class sometime will start talking about it, and you're like, oh wow, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah. And
so there's always, and my understanding is they have like 100 times more than what's up in their garage or something. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And then I remember last November when Sibak Taki was at IMB, I went down there, and they've got other versions of some of the same pictures, and you're like, oh my God, that's like a second picture taken the same day as the other one. That's at the Academy. And so that was fascinating. And he had all the original like Kali Academy signs and stuff there. So that was also really neat. And it's, I think it's one of the things a lot of us, especially if we've been there for a while, we very much take the time to say, don't let this ever get old. Don't ever, especially because I get asked a lot by the people coming in from out of town. It's like, oh, you're probably used to it. And it's like, no, I don't ever want to get used to it. Not in that way. It's a gift, and we all want to be very, very cognizant of that and very grateful for it.
You're an excellent representative of the Inosanto Academy. I got to
thank you, sir.
Right. Okay. So give my regards to everybody out there.
I will.
Right. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you again to help me get in touch with some of the California people.
Oh, sure.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, anytime.
All right. Okay, Tim, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right.
which is September 28th, we should be on with Jeff Westphal. So I'll have two people with of German extraction in a row. And that'll be back at the regular time of 3 p.m. Friday the 28th with Jeff Westphal of the Ryzen Phoenix Martial Arts Academy. So that's it for today. Feel free, as always, share, like, comment, ask questions. I'll review everything after posting, and sign up for the notifications for when we go live on Facebook and on the new YouTube channels for both the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast and the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. Okay, that's it. We'll see you back here next time, same week, for another issue of the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. Until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.